Okay, moving on. Looking at chapter 9. Sorry, we're moving on to section 4, cognitive development. So we talked about the physical, and we've talked a little bit about disabilities. So let's talk about cognitive development. Okay. Your book defines cognitive development, or talks about cognitive development, where children make huge leaps forward in their cognitive development during this particular section in life. Their thought processes become more logical, their language becomes more logical, and we tend to start to move to a more concrete, sort of logical place in our thought processes, in our problem solving, in our language, those sorts of things. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Mr. Piaget in this section. He's who we're going to focus on. For Piaget, during this time of life, the child's going to start to enter what he called the concrete operational stage. And this is characterized by some different things, by flexible thought, by reversible thought, and concentrating on the tangibles, things that we can see, things that we can touch, taste, feel, those sorts of things. So some of the things that we want to look at include things like things that we can do, reverse mathematical operations. So here's where some of that reversibility comes in. 2 plus 3 equals 5 can be reversed into 5 minus 3 equals 2. We're able to kind of flip-flop that and see that those two problems are saying essentially the same thing. Children also become less egocentric. They start this process of decentration, and meaning we are able to focus on more than one aspect or dimension of a problem or situation. So that not only means how we view the world through our own eyes, we can start to see how people view the world from their eyes. So we start to understand there are multiple perspectives on things, and problems can have multiple parts at the same time. We can also see here that by age 7, children start to develop an understanding of the law of conservation. And so we talked about conservation a little bit before. So we know that objects can have several properties or dimensions at the same time. So we can give, like your book talks about, a ball of clay and a flattened ball of clay. Children by age 7 can understand that the flattened ball of clay and the round ball of clay, although they look different, may have different dimensions, but they are essentially the same amount of clay. That's the idea of conservation. Before that, children may not understand that. They may see the clay is bigger or the flattened clay is bigger, that the quantity of clay is different. So here again, we see the law of conservation. I'm giving you the example of the flattened ball of clay. They also develop the idea of transitivity. And transitivity, and you've all seen this before, your book gives you an example. It says, if your parents are older than you are, and you are older than your children, are your parents older than your children? Well, of course. All right, you understand that concept, and that shows us the example of transitivity. If A exceeds B, so if A is bigger than B, and B is bigger than C, then A must be bigger than C as well, and that's the idea of transitivity. We also see in this period what's called seriation, meaning that we can place objects in order or categorize them or put them in a series by age, by height, by weight. And children can tend to do this with at least 2 dimensions at once. So let's take a look at the next slide. Now, this is a demonstration of seriation. And if we had given, children a bunch of leaves and ask them to categorize them from darkest in color to lightest in color and biggest to smallest, right? And this is the idea of seriation, and this is something that a child in middle childhood should start to be able to do. Well, think along 2 dimensions at once. So we can look at these leaves and we can think about them in terms of their size and in terms of their color at the same time, and we can categorize them along those dimensions. And that's something, again, this idea of seriation that develops in middle childhood. One of the things that we need to talk about too when it comes to this section or this concrete operational stage is class inclusion. Now the idea here is being able to focus on 2 subclasses and a larger subclass at the same time. So if we look at the example in your book, we kind of talked about this example in chapter 7, where we pose the question to a 4-year-old. We show them a picture of 4 cats, and we show them a picture of 6 dogs. And if we ask them, are there more dogs or are there more animals? All right. Now, a 4-year-old may not be able to do that because they don't have this class inclusion yet. At the concrete operational stage, you can start to do that. Because if we look at our example, we have a class of cats and we have a class of dogs, and that's the 2 subclasses. Then we can also focus on the larger subclass, which includes both the cats and our larger class, which includes both the cats and the dogs. So if we have the question, 4 cats versus 6 dogs, are there more dogs or more animals? Well, we know there are 6 dogs, right? But we know overall 4 plus 6, 4 cats plus 6 dogs equals 10 animals. So we know, because we can do that class inclusion, that overall there are more animals, 10, than there are dogs, 6. Now when we take a look at Piaget's ideas, when we apply it to education, how kids learn and how kids learn in the classroom. Well, Piaget was a big proponent that kids are active. They're not just sitting there and having information put upon them. They are active learners, and action involves discovery. Instruction should be geared to the level of the child's development. So maybe doing things by grade, even though a lot of those kids should be similar, they're not all going to be similar. So we need to think about their development and where they're at. And we need to teach them about taking others' perspective, all right? Because we know they're able to do that, and we need to enhance that. We need to help develop that, because if we start to learn perspective taking and thinking about the world from different perspectives, that not only helps our cognitive development, but helps our moral development as well, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute in the next section.